Hi, I'm Chris Jones. Normally on Wednesdays, I have a column out on Bluegrass Today. I'm going to do something a little different this week. I've done some video columns before, but not quite like this. Usually my columns are pretty lighthearted. There's some humorous anecdotes, some jokes. It's not that serious, but today I'm feeling pretty serious. Some things I want to talk to you about. Some things that are not being discussed, some things you aren't being told, and I want to speak out and tell you what I know and what I know from some other reliable sources. Some of the stuff is going to surprise you. I may ruffle some feathers. To me, the truth is worth it. First of all, a person that is near and dear to all of our hearts, the father of bluegrass music, Bill Monroe. We need to clear the air about some things related to Bill. As we have generally been told, Bill Monroe passed away in 1996. Okay? Now, there's some people who advance the theory that Bill Monroe is still alive. I personally think that's ridiculous. He'd be 110 years old. Not that Bill couldn't live that long. He was in great shape. A very impressive man, but that's not what happened. What did happen, and I'm sorry to have to talk about this, but it needs to be discussed because we need to face the truth of this. Bill Monroe passed away in 1982. How do I know this? Well, I have a number of very reliable sources on YouTube, Facebook, who back me up on this. I know some people that know some other people that have connections with Bill Monroe that verify this privately. They don't want to talk about it publicly. They're afraid to. But this is what happened. In 1981, Bill Monroe recorded a tune that he wrote that he was very passionate about, a tune called My Last Days on Earth. Now, why would the father of bluegrass music, with the insight that he had, write a tune about his last days on Earth and then go on to live until 1996? That wouldn't happen. And he never meant for this. He'd be horrified to know that this is what happened. But from 1982 until 1996, there were not one, but two Bill Monroe body doubles out there touring and recording. There were stories about Bill playing in two different places in the country the same night, and no one's been able to understand why. Well, now you know. There was also extensive use of holograms, and that technology was starting to become very advanced in the 1990s. So, 1982 was the year. Now, take the name Monroe, jumble the letters around a bit, we come up with this, Nom Rony. Doesn't mean much, right? Break it down into three parts, though. No Mr. One. What this means is that from that period, from 1982 to 1996, we had no Mr. One. Okay? Doesn't change anything about Bill Monroe's music. The recordings that came out were perfectly valid after that, but they were previously recorded. Another thing I wanted to discuss with you is some of the interests that are at work in our music. We think of our music as a small community. It's great. Bluegrass Today will bring you stories about births and weddings and things within our community. We think of it as a family, but we have larger interests involved. I know you know about big tech, big pharma. Well, there's also big grass. Make no mistake. And again, I'm happy to provide you with lots of reliable sources of information on some of the best places for reliable information, like Facebook and YouTube. What do I mean by big grass? Well, let's take one of the major record labels. We could take others, but say Rounder, for example. Now, Rounder Records started out as a small cooperative of three people, but it no longer is its own entity. It is owned was bought out by the Concord label group. Well, they in turn are owned by a much larger group, and one you might have heard of recently, Moderna. Yes, the ones who brought us the Moderna vaccine. The one that Dolly Parton invested $1 million in. So, something you should know. We'll get back to Dolly Parton here in a moment, but one of the reasons I needed to talk now about some of these issues is that we're entering the IBMA Awards season. And this is a time when you get emails from people, from bands and artists that say, for your consideration, and they list their recordings of the past year, we vote. We think those votes are being counted. Well, I'm sorry to report this, but for over 10 years now, all IBMA awards have been decided by one committee of 5 people. This committee of 5 people is called the Committee of 5 People. And they meet twice a year at a Cracker Barrel, at an undisclosed Cracker Barrel, somewhere in Tennessee. Cracker Barrel is involved in this, by the way. The CEO of Cracker Barrel once gave the keynote address at the IBMA World of Bluegrass. Now, why would the head of a restaurant chain address the IBMA World of Bluegrass? Well, that's why. They're involved in this. The committee meets. They give a little special signal when they go into this Cracker Barrel, wherever it is. They say, table for 5 in the corner. And they meet. Who's on this committee? Chris Thiele, who has some larger media connections. Dolly Parton, we were talking about her. Jeff Bezos, we know Jeff. Prince Charles. And Hilo Brown, who unlike Bill Monroe, is still alive. A lot of people want you to think that he isn't, but he's alive. He's up there in years. He's almost 100 years old, but he can still sing the Prisoner's song in 2 octaves, so he's doing very well. And he is very critical to this whole operation. In fact, he chairs this committee. So they meet, they determine IBMA nominees, and ultimately the winners. We play along with this as if our voice matters. I'm afraid that it doesn't. Now you would say, Chris Thiele, if he was on the committee, why didn't he just give himself awards every year? Well, that would look too obvious, wouldn't it? In fact, they went the other way. Make sure he didn't win too many of them so that we wouldn't be wise to this. Prince Charles, might be surprised about his involvement, but it's real. As a matter of fact, Prince Philip was not happy with Prince Charles' involvement, and Prince Philip was going to speak out about this publicly this week. He planned a news conference for this week. He suddenly died with no explanation. I mean, I'm not the only one that thinks it's a little strange that a 99-year-old man in perfectly good health would just pass away like that. So, something to think about. I'm not accusing anybody. I'm not drawing any conclusions, but I just want to let you know the facts. It's time that we got to the truth. I sometimes get a little bit worked up about this because I just feel like we're not being told what's happening, and it's time that we knew that. So keep these things in mind. Keep coming back to the YouTube channel. Keep reading Bluegrass Today. Let me say something about Bluegrass Today. I'm just a contractor with them. I'm not expressing their opinion. They may disagree, in fact, but they give me the freedom. They don't censor me. So I thank John Lawless and Terry Hurd, everybody involved in Bluegrass Today, for having the courage to do that. We need more courage. So carry on.